December 12, 1983. Jonathan Joseph James is born in Miami-Dade, Florida. A boy who would one day force NASA to shut down their computers for 21 days, costing $41,000, and stealing code worth more than $1.7 million. He was only 15 years old. He wasn't a spy, he wasn't a genius billionaire, just a quiet teenager with a second-hand computer and a curiosity that no one around him fully understood. Early childhood, late 1980s to early 1990s. Jonathan grows up like any other kid, but computers quickly become his world. He teaches himself programming and spends long nights exploring how systems work, pushing them, breaking them, just to see what would happen. He never started with bad intentions. He started with questions. Mid to late 1990s, Jonathan begins experimenting with small networks. He explores the Miami-Dade school system. He pokes around Bell South networks, not for money, not for revenge, but for access, and for the thrill of crossing into places he was never meant to see. August to October 1999. Jonathan takes a step that changes everything. He infiltrates the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, a division of the U.S. Department of Defense responsible for nuclear, biological, and chemical threat analysis. From a bedroom in Florida, a 15-year-old installs a backdoor on a government server in Virginia and quietly places a sniffer program inside their network. Over time, that sniffer collects more than 3,000 internal messages, including usernames, passwords, and access to at least 10 military computers. A teenager now has eyes inside a federal defense agency. Late 1999 to early 2000, Jonathan pushes even further. He turns his attention to NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. Using the skills he refined inside DTRA systems, he accesses NASA networks and downloads source code valued at more than $1.7 million. This wasn't ordinary software. It controlled environmental and life support systems on the International Space Station, including temperature and humidity in the astronauts' living area. There's no evidence he wanted to harm anyone, but the fact that he could touch that code at all terrified the people responsible for those lives in orbit. Late 1999 to early 2000, NASA reacts immediately. They shut down the affected systems for 21 days, lock out engineers, rebuild every machine, and spend $41,000 on cleanup and recovery. For NASA, this was a serious breach. For federal investigators, this was a flashing red alarm. January 2000. Federal agents from NASA, the Department of Defense, the Secret Service, and local police raid Jonathan's home in Pinecrest, Florida. He's 16 years old. Computers are seized, hard drives bagged, his quiet nighttime world exposed as a federal crime scene. Later, Jonathan says that to him, hacking felt like a challenge, just looking around, playing around. But the US government didn't see it that way. September 21, 2000. Jonathan accepts the plea agreement. He admits what he did. He avoids being tried as an adult, a trial that could have sent him to prison for up to 10 years. He becomes the first juvenile in American history to serve time for cybercrime. His sentence? 6 months in a federal detention facility, followed by house arrest, probation until 18, apology letters to NASA and the Department of Defense, and a ban on computer use except for school. It was meant to send a message to young hackers across the country. For Jonathan, it was the moment his life split into before and after. 2001 to 2006. Life after detention is difficult. He violates probation once by testing positive for drugs and is sent back to serve another 6 months. He tries to stay out of trouble, but the pressure of being constantly monitored and the fear of being misunderstood follow him everywhere. 2007. Investigators are working on the massive TJX data breach, one of the biggest retail hacks in history. Some of the people involved know Jonathan. His name surfaces in the investigation, even though there is no public evidence he took part. Agents raid his home again. They find a legally owned firearm and personal notes showing he was struggling with depression. He begins to believe he will be blamed for crimes he didn't commit. He feels trapped between his past, his reputation, and a justice system he no longer trusts. May 18, 2008. At just 24 years old, Jonathan James dies from a self-inflicted gunshot. In his suicide letter, he writes, "I honestly had nothing to do with TJX. I have no faith in the justice system." His life, once full of potential, ends under the weight of suspicion, pressure, and fear. The numbers remain: $41,000 in NASA's cleanup, 21 days of shutdown, 3,000 intercepted military messages, $1.7 million in NASA source code accessed. But behind those numbers, there was a teenager driven by curiosity, intelligence, and a desire to understand systems no one expected him ever to reach. His story forces difficult questions. How should society treat teenage hackers? As criminals? As potential assets? As warnings? Or something in between? Jonathan wanted to see how far he could go. And in the end, the only thing he felt he could still control was how his story ended. This was the story of Jonathan Joseph James, the 15-year-old who hacked NASA, cost them thousands of dollars, and paid a price no teenager should have to pay.